Having desires is a good thing. However, if you're missing this, your desires can lead to disappointment. See, an expectation is a future imagined outcome. It's what we make up in our minds about the future. Now, I can imagine good things for myself, or I can imagine bad things for myself. The former will serve me more than the latter because having good expectations fuels my progress more than having negative expectations. One reason why this is the case is because we can believe what we expect for. See, focus creates belief. When we focus on something for long enough and consistently enough, it then can form our beliefs. And that's the same way with expectations. If I set an expectation and focus on it for long enough and consistently enough, I can believe the thing I'm expecting for it. And we normally live out what we believe. So if I believe I'm going to get an expectation, I'm going to have actions that are consistent and that align with the expectation I'm believing for. Now, sometimes the belief that we have can override the work that's required. See, if my heart's desire is set on making an MBA and I thought it was automatic, well, I'm inclined to put in less work than is required because I think I'm going to reach my goal regardless. And that's when desire leads to disappointment, when we're not willing or able to put in the work that's required to reach that desire. See, if making the MBA requires me working out 4 hours a day, but I think it's automatic, I'm inclined to work out 2 hours or less. And that desire that I have is going to lead to disappointment because I didn't put in the work it takes to get that desire, even though I believe it would happen. Now, desires can be inconsistent with expectations and still lead to disappointment. For example, if I'm playing basketball and I expect to miss the shot, but I desire to make it, well, if I miss the shot, even though it's aligned with the expectation that I had, because it's inconsistent or not a fulfillment of my desire, I can still have disappointment for missing the shot. So if our expectations don't have to be aligned with our desires, where does expectation play in? Well, expectations can help us because it can shift our desires to something internal rather than external. See, I tell people to focus on inputs, not outputs, because we can't control outputs, but we can control our inputs. See, if my desire is based on an output, like making a shot, well, I can get disappointment even if I did everything I could do that's in my power. If I shot the shot right, if I had my eyes on the rim, if I did everything, I can still miss the shot because I can't control my outputs. However, if my desire is based on my inputs, then I don't have to feel disappointed because that's in my control. So if I shift my expectation from outcomes to what I do, then my desire changes and my disappointment no longer has to come because it's in my power. For example, if I'm playing basketball once again, if my expectation is that every time I shoot the ball to flick my wrist, well, I get a new desire. So instead of just making the shot, my desire now is to flick my wrist, which is in my power. So I don't have to feel disappointed regardless of the outcome I get because my inputs were correct. And that's where expectations can play a role. It can shift your desire from external to internal, which leads you to become less likely to face disappointment because it's completely determined by you. So hopefully this video helped you in a way. To summarize, desire leads to disappointment when you don't put in the work it takes to get your desire. But one thing we can do is use our expectations to shift our desires to internal rather than external so that our results, our outcomes, are determined by us and not only influenced by us. Thank you guys for watching. I try to post every 2 weeks about the mind, about our mindsets, and how that can help you to make progress in life. If you like this type of content, please subscribe and